Recently I took on the Indestructible Shoes Challenge. As an outcome of this, I ended up with 2 destroyed shoes. And so I'm now going to take the steel toe caps out of the shoes and try and make something out of them. I think I'm going to try and make a hammer. So I'm going to flatten them out, cut them out into little tiles, stack the tiles up, forge weld it all together and make this little hammer out of these Indestructible Shoe steel toe caps. Two steel toe caps. As you can see, they're a bit flattened. I'm going to heat them up and try and get them out into a flat piece of steel, which hopefully we can then cut out and stack up into sort of almost a billet like you would Damascus. Forge weld that together and try and make this little hammer out of it. There is a little bit of writing on there. Don't know if you can see it. Probably just about the grade of the steel that it is. There we go, hit it with some scrolling tongs. Just to bend that lip out. Toe caps are nice and flat. I'm gonna draw on here roughly how I'm gonna cut them out. I would have liked to get them down to a rectangle, but they're so thin that I can't really forge it into a rectangle, so I'm gonna lose quite a lot of material in cutting out some cubes, which rectangles probably, that we can then stack up and forge weld together into a billet to make a hammer from. I've marked out where I'm going to cut these tiles so we can then stack them up into this billet. I've also taken the scale off, so hopefully they'll forge weld a bit better. But it's very thin, so I don't want to take all of it off because then I'll be left with too little material. So we'll have to see how it's going to weld. But let's cut them out first. All the tiles are stacked up. I'll get a clamp on it and then weld the 4 corners so it's all stuck together. Weld a handle on. We can then heat it up in the forge just till it starts to spark. Forge weld it together into a solid piece of steel, which we can then make into this little hammer. That weld went really well. You can't even see it. I've forged it down back to 16mm. You can see there the original stick weld that I did just to tack the billet onto this bar, so I'll cut it off there. But I think actually before I'm going to cut it off, I'll begin to forge some of the features on the hammer itself. Drilled the hole. I've got these 2 drifts which I'm going to use to open that out into that hammer eye shape. So we'll do that first, I think, and then I don't know, I don't really know what style of hammer I'm going to go for. I'll make it up as I go along, I think. Just widen that hole a little bit more. Gotta make sure to work it from both sides, putting the drift in on both sides. think before I forge the cheeks out, I'm going to put a bit of a cross peen on it, on this back end. We've got a bit of a fish mouth forming, but we can grind that back after. I've ground off that fish mouth now. I'll just get it all back to the same width. I'll come in and just knock these corners off a little bit. Just for aesthetics, really. I'll drift the hole a bit more and then we can forge the cheeks out just a little bit before we forge the face. Knock the drift through. And we can forge the cheeks out a little bit. The back end is forged out. We've got a nice cross peen there with knocked off corners and a bit of a swell on the cheeks. I'm going to cut it off and form the face. You know, there's no more forging on it now. It's just cutting it off, and I'll grind a little bit of a chamfer just on the edges to make it all nice. You can see there, that's a crack from the original stick weld that we did, so that's sort of my limit of material, but to be honest, I'll probably take a little bit less anyway. It's pretty much done, just a little bit, and then we've got to make a handle, of course. Cut it off from the bar. It's looking quite nice. I polished that face up. The proportions perhaps could be a little bit different, maybe a bit more of a taper down there. I don't know, it's all whatever you like in a hammer. This is a little bit like this sort of a cross peen. This is I think this is a German patent cross peen. I'm not too sure, but you can see you know, it's vaguely the same hammer in it. But it was a nice fun little thing. I'm gonna make a small handle for it now. I've got a bit of ash lying around, so we could do a proper handle just for a mini hammer. This is the piece of wood that I'm going to use. I'll work out how long I need to cut it. I'll cut it off. Actually, I'll probably shape it first. I've got a little whittling knife. I'm by no means a woodworker. I'll absolutely butcher it, but let's have a go. I've got quite a bow on the piece, which I'll have to try and sort out. I've made this tiny wedge which will go in there and hopefully secure the hammer head in place. Get it on nice and tight. See if this is actually going to work. Just like you would any other hammer. There we go. I really enjoyed making this hammer. It sort of encompasses everything that I like about blacksmithing. Being able to take any amount of material and forge it into something completely different, and just being able to make anything out of anything. It's sort of very, very specialised to blacksmithing, very central to blacksmithing, in that in woodworking, say, you can't take any chunk of material and make it into something else, you know, because you're limited by by the proportions of that particular piece of material, whereas in blacksmithing you can just add bits on and weld bits on or draw them out into smaller, you know, you can do anything, and that's why I like it. You can take anything and make it into anything. If you want your own pair of indestructible shoes, of course you can still use my code OSC10 at checkout, or the link in the description below, and you'll be getting 10% off on your very own pair. Also, I will still get a little bit of a kickback from that, so it's a great way to support me and what I'm doing here so I can still create good content for you. Anyway, I had a lot of fun trying to do this. It was really, really cool to actually do it myself, you know, take the steel toe cap out of a shoe, bend it out into a flat piece, cut it up into tiles, forge weld all that together, and then forge this actual hammer out of that material. It was very fun. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you soon on the next video.